Buddy. Today, me and Bryers from Bryers Music Showcase will be reviewing the Byrds' third studio album, Fifth Dimension. Um, Before we get into that, anyone who hasn't watched my videos yet, Bryers, introduce your channel.
Yep. So Bryers Music Showcase, as it says down below. Again, I just talk about music. That's all I talk about. Typically 60s, 70s, 80s is kind of where I mainly specialize in. I do have some 90s and modern stuff, but mainly a lot of old music. I tackle many genres: rock, metal, R&B. Like I'm pretty much all over the map. But yeah, I love music. I love talking about it, and yeah, whenever I can, it's always fun to talk about music.
Yep. Same with me. Of course, if you know my channel, I mostly make up music related topics. There was a little moment where I was doing little hockey related things, but that's mostly just playoff talk. But yeah. Let's get straight to the review. Very first track on the album, Fifth Dimension, the title track.
All right, so Fifth Dimension, very good opening track so far. At least in my opinion, so far all their opening tracks are pretty good. This was written by McGuinn, so this was kind of at this point McGuinn was really getting into like all this like dimensions and stuff like that. I think he loosely based it off Einstein's theory of relativity. And good thing about this particular CD issue is that it actually has information on each song, so that's kind of where I get a lot of the information. But I wrote down a quote that McGuinn said to kind of give context of what the song's about. So, in quote, it's sort of weird, but what I'm talking about is the whole universe, the fifth dimension, which is height, width, depth, time, and something else. But there's definitely, but there definitely are more dimensions than five. It's infinite. The fifth dimension is the threshold of scientific knowledge. I don't know what that means, but he was into that, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So musically, it's also really good. Again, very melodic, which I've always liked. Always like. You have Van Dyke Parks on organ on this one, who provides some organ, and yeah, you can definitely hear it. The harmony, of course, is very good, and yeah, nice little guitar solo by McGuinn. So very good opening track.
Yeah, I quite like it. Very nice. When I first listened to it, I'm like, I'm not too crazy about it, but it grew on me. The whole album really, to me, is a grower. I mean, this. This is like the last like album of theirs to have like to have like a title track and lead off with a title track. I forgot if there was any more title track albums, but this is like the last of the six main like classic 6/5 to have like a title track slash like opening with the title track. And I still prefer Turn out of the three,
Yeah,
but
I agree.
still great song to open up the record though.
Hmm.
Next song, Wild Time, Wild Mountain Time, to be more.
I really like this song. This was a cover, kind of a traditional song. It's very simple, but I just thought it was kind of beautiful. Really, the big thing that really stood out to me was the orchestrations on this one. I think suits really well for the tone they're going for. I didn't write down a whole lot because, like I said, it was very simple. But I like songs that are simple, but you still get the emotion out of it. And again, I believe McGuinn's on lead vocals on here, and again, his vocals are pretty good. They do a good job on the song. So yeah, I'm a fan of this one.
Yeah, I quite like it. Really great song. I much prefer it over the first track. Believe it or not, it's really nice. Very really melodic, and it leads great to the next track. Which before I get into that, I just found out on my vinyl copy that Van Dyke Park appears through the courtesy of MGM Records on the first track.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's on the first track. Believe it or not.
yeah.
You know, if you're into if you're a music fan like us, you would know Van Dyke Parks was he worked with Brian Wilson on the Beach Boys Smile record. You know, the record that would lead to disaster and basically what would become Smiley Smile. But we don't talk about that right now. But yeah, it leads into the great next track. Mr. Spaceman.
All right, so another original again by McGuinn, and yeah, from what I gathered, this was about aliens. So yeah, so I mean, it's the '60s, the space, the whole space, outer space craze was really kicking in. So had to see, definitely was expecting at least one alien song. From what I've heard, this was supposed to be more melancholic, but they decided to change it to sound more whimsical. This is a pretty decent song. There wasn't anything that really stood out to me aside the lyrics, because it's about aliens. So yeah, that's gonna
Yeah,
catch your attention. But it's solid. It's kind of more middle of the road for me, but I like it. It's not bad.
I quite like it. This actually was released as a single, 19
Mm,
September 6th, 1966, and it peaked up to number 36 in the U.S. Didn't chart at all in the U.K. or Germany, but it did reach number 18 in it says NLD. I don't know what that country that stands for, but yeah. And the fifth track dimension track went to number 44 in the states, but went nowhere anywhere else,
mm.
which is crazy. But yeah, it's quite a good single. Probably one of their weaker of the singles that they released before this and even after this, and it's still a really good track though. I still quite like it. Next track, I See You.
I see you too. But yeah, it was kind of funny because when I first heard it, I was like, I feel like I've heard it before, and then it wasn't until it finally clicked that I actually had heard this song before, but not by the Byrds. It was actually done by Yes. They actually did a cover on their first album, and of course with Yes they expanded it out to 6 minutes because the Birds version is like less 2.5 minutes. So
Yeah,
so yeah, that's kind of where I first heard this song. So it was kind of cool to hear the original. And yeah, I think I don't know which one I like more, but I definitely do like the Birds version a lot. It has a bit more of it's a lot more fast tempo, kind of it's a bit more of a harder edge to it. Definitely more rocking, I feel. And McGuinn gets to kind of let loose a bit more with his guitar playing. He kind of is kind of let out a bit to kind of do all this like free form stuff because from what I've gathered, they were listening to a ton of jazz when they were making this album, mainly a lot of John Coltrane, and that's kind of what McGuinn was kind of trying to do, was trying to have the guitar sound like a saxophone, like how a saxophone will be doing its solo. So I think that was kind of cool. So yeah, I think very good
I'm
song.
happy with that. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's a cool fact. I really like it. It's not as good as the first three tracks, but it's still a really, really good song, and it definitely has grown on me over time. It's still really good.
Yeah.
Next track though, which I love, "What's Happening." David Crosby's very first lead vocal on a Birds album. What do you think about it?
Man, it's his first lead vocal, but and also his first solo writing credit.
Yes.
Yeah, so this was kind of him. Again, you hear all this when you think of Crosby as a songwriter. It definitely has a lot of those like elements. Like it's very, very different from everything. The arrangement's also kind of different. And lyrically, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of him just questioning the world around him, and of course, he doesn't have the answer. Uh, and so yeah, that was kind of interesting. I kind of like the call response between the vocals and the guitar. Thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, for a first solo song by Crosby, I think this is a solid first one. Um, Again, kind of hits more middle in the middle, but still very solid. I liked it.
I really enjoy the song. This is probably I'm I'm not sure yet, but I'm pretty sure this is my favorite song on the album. I really enjoy it. It's one of the Birds' very first, like when people think of their first psychedelic song, they think 8 Miles High, which it's on this record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But in terms of the track listing order, this is to me their first psychedelic song, and it's perfect. I love it. David Crosby's vocals is beautiful. I've always loved this track. I've grown to love it even more over time. It's just one of those tracks that I'm like, wow, this is so good. And it makes me wonder why the songs that he wrote for Crosby, Stills and Nash were like so like mediocre and boring. But
Mm,
yeah, I already went over when we were
yeah,
reviewing the Crosby, Stills and Nash albums. I'm
right.
like, yeah, I love his Byrds input, but his Crosby, Stills and Nash input was like his best song is "Cut My Hair" or whatever from their Deja
Mm,
Vu album. But we'll get into that either with us on my channel or on Garrett's channel with all four of us. Who knows? Next track on the album, "I Come and Stand at Every Door."
yeah. This one was a grower for me, I'd say. I think when I first heard it, I was like, yeah, musically it's kind of okay because I think I've talked about it before in the last video, in the last episode we did. I can't remember which song it was, but there was one song which it kind of just stayed the same the whole time. This one does the same thing, but I think it does a way better job here. Um, this was another cover. I'm not going to say his name because I'm going to butcher it, but I think he was a Turkish writer, if I remember correctly. And
Mm-hmm.
this was actually supposed to be written in the perspective of a child who died during the Hiroshima bombing. And I think the lyrics really stand out to me. Um, well, even though they didn't write it, I still think the lyrics still pretty much shine on this song. It has it's repetitive, but it maintains this kind of melancholic feel about, again, it's about a dead child, so of course it has that very dark and ominous tone, which I'm into that. I don't mind listening to dark music. So this was a big standout song for me, so yeah, this was a good one.
I really love this track. After such a crazy song like "What's Happening" goes to this very
Mm,
melancholy song, and the theme of it, I didn't know it was about that, but the like the lingering, "But I am dead, I am
yeah,
dead." I didn't think to go really too into the lyrics, but wow, that's just it just makes the song even more crazy than it already is,
yeah,
and such a and this is like the way this is them ending off side one on the record. So
wow, yeah,
what a great way to end off side one. Just leave you on a quiet and somber note, and then flip over to record side two. You get 8 miles high. What do you think of it?
yeah. So we probably should have mentioned this before, but I think we should have mentioned it. We should have mentioned it in last episode. But on Turn Turn Turn, that was the last album with Gene Clark as a full time member.
Yeah,
He's still on this album, but only on certain songs. He would kind of leave to do his own thing and kind of appear here and there throughout the catalog, but not as a full time member. So this is one of the songs he was here for. So it is credited to McGuinn, Crosby, and Gene Clark. So yeah, this is one of the definitely when people think of the psychedelic Byrds, this is the song that most people think of. Yeah, it definitely has that very psychedelic feel where it has that double entendre with terms of the lyrics, because some people say it's about drugs, the band say it's just about them flying on a plane. So it could kind of work both ways. So yeah, this is it's definitely a standout. I definitely see why it's a highly regarded. The only thing that kind of holds it back for me is McGuinn's guitar solo. I mentioned before that he took great inspiration from John Coltrane, and on the and it was kind of it was on ICU, I think, or I mentioned it definitely
mhm,
has McGuinn
yeah.
laying loose a bit more. It didn't bother me then, but it was during this song where it started to kind of bug me a little bit. It's still cool to kind of hear McGuinn kind of let loose and actually shred a bit, but I don't know. It just didn't really click with me for this one. I mean, this and if I'm going to be honest, this is not really my favorite type of McGuinn playing. I kind of prefer when he's doing a more melodic, his more melodic playing, like stuff like the intro to Turn Turn Turn, like that intro guitar line. Like that's the type of McGuinn I like to hear. Um, but again, it's I don't have a huge issue with it, but it does kind of bug me a little bit. It sounds a little bit sloppy, but again, it's still cool. So I still very much enjoy the song, and I can see why this is a classic.
I love this track. When I first heard this track, I'm like, really? This is the big hit off the album? But then it grew on me more and more as
Hmm.
I listened to it. My only biggest problem is the placement on the album.
Mm,
It's not the best way to open up the second side of the record. It would have
okay.
been. I will tell you uh my alternate side too, because side one's perfect. I think it's the way that side one starts and ends. I think no other tracks could be perfect for that first side, but side two has a lot of problems, and
Mm,
8 Miles High being the first song on it is a huge problem, because the way
yeah.
it ends is like you just want it to be like, okay, great way, and it's like one of those things where like, oh, really great way to end off the album. Like it's like if the Beatles' Revolver album started off with "Tomorrow Never Knows" on side
Mm,
two.
right.
And that's kind of how I feel. Like if you get She Said She Said, and then you open up with "Tomorrow Never Knows," and you're like, oh, that's crazy, and then you get "Good Day Sunshine" afterwards, and it's just like, no.
Yeah, I will
And
say I will say that side 2 is probably the weak side on this album.
that's just my only problem with my only problem with this track. It's its placement on the album.
Mhm. Okay, yeah.
Next track though, "Hey Joe, where you gonna
Yeah.
go?" uh,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this was David Crosby on lead vocals. I'm not sure though.
Yeah, it's him.
Okay, I thought I recognized the vocals. I'm like, that has to be Crosby, and glad he confirmed it.
Mhm.
What do you
Yeah,
think of
I specifically wrote that in my notes. So, yep, this was the cover. Bill Roberts was the original, and of course, Jimi Hendrix would do his rendition of it the year after. And yeah, after you hear Jimi Hendrix's version, honestly, everything else, there's Jimi Hendrix version, and then there's everybody else.
That's fair?
So yeah, it's fine. It's not one of my favorites on the album. It's kind of I don't know. Yeah, it has the cowbell on it, so it has that going for it. But other than that, I don't know. It sounds a bit too because when Jimi Hendrix does it, it still has this very again has that great rock sound to it, which I think it definitely helps the lyrics out. But here they're kind of doing it a bit more. I don't know. I don't know if like I don't want to say it sounds playful, but that's what I get when I hear the Byrds version. I don't think it really matches the lyrics that much, so that's kind of my only issue with it. But it's fine. But it's probably one of the weaker songs on the album.
I like it a lot. Well, I do like the Jimi Hendrix version, but that version got overplayed where I live, so I
Mm,
kind of resent his version now. But I quite
yeah.
like the Birds version. It's still not the strongest thing on the album though. But on my Birds like side two alternate playlist, I actually the way that I had it on the album makes it a lot better. Not like a whole lot better, but it makes it a lot better. But
Hmm.
especially after 8 Miles High, like you get that rush of 8 Miles High, and then you get this song right after, and you're just like, oh, okay.
Hmm.
But yeah. Next track on the album, Captain Soul, the instrumental.
All right, the instrumental. So this came about from a jam session from when they were taking a break. Hence why the working title of this song was 30-minute break. So, but they changed it to Captain Soul at the end. It's an instrumental. I've said it before on Garrett's channel. I'm not huge onto instrumental tracks. There's a couple that are exceptions, but most of the time they're usually just filler for me. And this is kind of a similar thing. I do like it has kind of a more funk sound to it. Definitely the bass is a lot more pronounced. So that was kind of what kind of that's kind of helped pique my interest throughout this one. But again, it's not really one I would go back to on its own. But it's fine.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the lesser songs on the album. It's all right. Um, yeah, not really much to say about it. It's just one of those songs that goes from one year out to the other.
Yeah.
Uh, Next track, John Riley.
All right, another cover. This is another traditional song. I think if I were based on what I looked at, a lot of this came from Homer's Odyssey. At least that's what I've heard. Um, it's just about an adventurer going out and coming back to his lover, and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool. It's another solid song. This was another song that kind of grew on me the more I heard it. I like the orchestration again. So the orchestra comes back on the song, and yeah, I like how they sound here. Um, I think this song came very close to being my top five, but it got bumped down. Uh, but I still quite like it. So yeah, not much to say, but a good song.
I have to say it's a lot better than the other uh, two tracks,
Right.
"Hey Joe" and "Captain Soul." But
Yeah.
it, I never thought of it as a top five, but it was if we were doing like a top seven or top six, then yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I would
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. Right now, it's top. It got It's number six in my ranking.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree. Here's the song I'm excited to talk about.
Oh.
Two
Uh-huh.
four two Foxtrot, the Learjet song.
Yeah. So last episode, I I kind of criticized the last album. We're ending on a jokey song.
Oh, Suzanne, yeah.
Yeah. Here's another one of those. Uh, yeah. Written by McGuinn. This was supposed to be a tribute to a guy named John Lear, who was CEO of this airline company, I guess. So they decided to write a song about it. Apparently, McGuinn and Crosby took the song very seriously. Uh, so I don't know why. Uh, so yeah, it's just them singing that little jingle throughout the majority of it, but you have these loud jet sounds playing the entire time, which I found very distracting. It was like I get it, I get it's supposed to be about jets, but it's kind of like it's fine. It sounds more like an ad, really. So again, not really a good closing song in my opinion. So yeah, I wasn't a fan of this one.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah,
Yeah, the song is so weak. Such a really weird and dumb way to end off the album.
yeah.
Yeah, you basically said what I basically was gonna say, which is good. Yeah, five favorite songs and an honorable and a dishonorable mention, and your album rating.
All right. So my top five favorite songs on the album. So at number five, I have "Come and Stand at Come and Stand Every Door." Again, the melancholic really helped it out. Number four is going to be 8 Miles High. Number three is "I See You." Number two, Fifth Dimension, and number one, Wild Mountain Time. And then as a dishonorable mention, and honestly, the dishonorable mention could be flip flopped, but right now I have 242 Foxtrot, the Learjet song, as my dishonorable song. But Captain Soul could have worked there as well, but I think the Jet song annoyed me more. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's my dishonorable mention. So when it comes to my rating, um, I think I still prefer the other two albums over this. But I still think this is a very solid album. I think I still would I would come back to this album every now and then. So I can't remember what I gave the last album, but I think right now I'm gonna give it a solid 7.25.
Okay. Um, I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get my five now. Number five. Mr. Spaceman. Number four.
Okay.
Uh, Fifth Dimension. Number three. 8 Miles High. Number two. I Come and Stand at Every Door. My favorite song on the album. What's Happening? And as my dishonorable track, I'm gonna pick 242 Foxtrot, the Learjet song. And my score rating is gonna be a 7 out of 10. I at first when I first listened to this album, I thought it was the weakest out of the first six albums, and still I still kind of think that's the weakest out of the first six albums. A
Mm.
lot of people think it's that. There's some Byrds fans who would think this is their best album.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
It's nowhere near their best album.
Yeah, I think
Their
I think it's really because side two, like side two has more of the weaker songs. I think that's what really brought
and
this
the,
album
and the
down as a whole.
order and the order of the tracks is
Yeah.
really awful. Here's my alternate playlist. Side 1 stay the same. It flows really well.
Mm-hmm.
Side 2 opens up with Hey Joe instead of 8 Miles High.
Okay.
Hey Joe kind of like opens back up the enthusiasm after the very melancholic song. Then John Riley comes right after it. Then the Captain Soul song. Then 242 Foxtrot. And the very last song on the album would be 8 Miles High. You know, you get two really weak
Yeah.
tracks, and you get that really great song at the end. Like that,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah, sounds good.
it would be a lot better of a listening experience if that was the track listing. Not that, but they had like a lot of B sides that they could have pulled off and replaced it with Captain Soul and 242 Foxtrot. It should be on your CD release.
Yeah, this one has a couple of them. It has one song called Why, another one called I Know My Rider.
Why is on, well, it's like because Why is the B side to 8 Miles High. Like Why would end up being on this record. Not the B side version, but like there's like an album. This is like the album version you would listen to, but if you listen to
gotcha.
It's like a totally different version. Did you listen to Younger Than Yesterday yet?
Not. I know I heard it when I first got it, but yeah, I'm to re-listen to it.
Yeah, that's gonna be for the next video.
Yeah,
that's their next album in their
chronological
in their album list. Much better, obviously, in my opinion. But yeah, it suffers through that. If they would have took the B side Why and put it on the album, and there's one other song that I listened to off the bonus tracks, and I'm like, yeah, that's much better than any of these two songs. And if they would have, this album had a lot of potential. Let's just say that. I did a track versus track video. This album crushed Fifth Dimension because it's like so much better. There is one track off of Younger Than Yesterday that a lot of people either really like or really hate. It's called Mind Gardens. I don't know if you remember that track.
Yeah, it sounds familiar, but yeah, I have the reasons to it.
It's one or two Crosby songs on the album. He only had like from what I remember on the albums, he only had 4 lead vocals.
Okay.
2 of them were on this album, and 2 of them were on the next album. And his last album with the Byrds, I don't think he had any lead vocals on those tracks off of Notorious Byrd Brothers, but I could be wrong though. But yeah, final thoughts you have on this album?
Yep. Overall, solid album, but as of right now, it's probably of these 3 we've covered, it's probably my least favorite. But again, it's still worth a listen.
Yeah. Like I do with my George Harrison reviews, once we get to their 6th album, I'd like to do like a mini album ranking of what we think, like, oh, this is 6, this is 5, this is 4, this is 3, this is 1. And then when we get to the very end, not like on the video, but like we'll do like a completely separate video of doing like a ranking video. I'd also like to do a top 10 best songs and a top 10 worst songs in one video.
Okay.
Like these are like their best 10 songs, and these 10 songs are
Yeah, all right. I'm down for that. That sounds fun.
The Learjet song is definitely going to be in my top 10.
Yeah, same here.
Like songs. Telling by how you were talking about Captain Soul, I'm assuming that's going to be another song that's going to be in your top 10. But who knows? Maybe there's some other songs you might find more bad than that on their 12 studio albums. But who knows? Wow, 29 minutes. Let's see if we got any comments, because I didn't check it all throughout the video. Yeah, no comments. Okay. Yeah, I'm excited. This series is great because I don't really hear a lot of people talk about Byrd albums. A lot of people talk about
not really.
Of course, they're basic, not basic, but they're they're essential tracks. Mr. Tambourine Man, Feel a Whole Lot Better, 8 Miles High, So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star. A bunch of their hits, but people don't really go into the albums and dissect them like once we get to their like 7th, 8th album, that's when people are gonna be like, never heard of those albums before. But I listened to all 12 of their albums, and I gotta say, not in my opinion, not one of them are bad. So
okay,
that's good.
Yeah, that's good to know. But yeah, I'm enjoying this. I'm looking forward to the next episode.
Yep. See you guys.